Lovely. We've been having fun, boys and girls, with technology. We've had to move from one platform to another to record this interview. Anyway, we're here now. We're glad you're all here. Today, my special guest is Serena Musick, who is here to tell us about her particular journey to and discovery of the species-appropriate, species-specific diet for human beings, and just pretty broadly and pretty widely around her experiences there too. So I will have probably very little to say until the end when there might be some questions. Pretty much the time is yours, Serena. Tell us all about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. What brought me to the carnivore diet originally was I have this weird post-COVID issue where things taste and smell rotten. It's called parosmia. And so I lost my sense of taste and smell when I had COVID back in December of 2020. And after it came back a few months later, it was still like really muted. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day and things tasted and smelled just the most bizarre thing, like a rotten skunk carcass somebody had lit on fire is how I described it at the time. It was just horrible. It was like skunk all the time, burning skunk. It was awful. And so there were many things I couldn't eat. And the things that I could eat were sugar. So I could eat things like cupcakes and I could eat things like brownies. And those, for the most part, tasted and smelled normal. But other things like meats and vegetables and fruits, they all smelled rotten to me. And so it took me about a month to kind of realize what was happening and do some research and realize that this is a post-COVID issue. It's they describe it as neurological, and it's if you had like one of those big, thick fiber optic wire things with all the wires in it, it's like somebody cut them when you had COVID, and that's why you lost your sense of taste and smell. And then when they got put back together, they were all mixed up. And so my brain is just trying to figure out what things are supposed to taste and smell like. And so my birthday weekend in 2021, at the end of May, I had 20 cupcakes in 36 hours, and it was miserable because of all the sugar and garbage that I was eating, because those were the things that tasted good. And so I woke up that Monday morning and said, that's it. I'm not going to eat carbs anymore. I'm not going to eat sugar anymore. So if I couldn't eat fruits and vegetables and I wasn't going to eat sugar anymore, and there were literally like 3 meats that I could eat at the time, I was like, what does this make me now? So this is like extremely low carb. What is this? And I started doing research and found the carnivore diet. So I found lots of people in the carnivore space. I found Kelly Hogan, Laura Spath, Michaela Peterson. I found all these people and started watching their videos and just kind of absorbing myself in it. And it was very specific, the things that I could eat. Like I could get a hamburger fresh off the grill, but I couldn't refrigerate it and then reheat it. It's this weird chemical reaction that makes it smell rotten. I couldn't eat chicken for probably 6 months. I could eat a steak, but it had to be fresh off the grill, but only certain cuts of steak. Other ones tasted and smelled rotten. Is the most bizarre thing ever. And so I started with just those few things and then started kind of gradually, adding more things to it. By within a couple of months, there was a handful of things I could eat. And I was sticking really close to a carnivore diet at that point. I may have used a little bit of artificial sweetener here and there. I was still having my coffee like that, with some sweetener and lots of cream in it, because the coffee was one of the things that tasted and smelled so rotten. And then what I started realizing was that like things were transforming for me and within myself. I didn't realize it at the time, but later on, looking back on it, I guess maybe about a year in, I had the realization that I was better. I was a better person. I feel like I'm a better person. I'm a different person, and I feel like I'm a better person for it. But what really ended up happening to me with the carnivore diet was so much more than, so many people come to the carnivore diet. It's the ultimate elimination diet. It's a great way to eliminate those things. Some people want to add things back in after a while and see how they react to them. But it's also a huge anti-inflammatory diet. So all of the inflammation starts to go away and you just start to feel better. Things get easier. And what I realized about a year in was that my eating disorder and disordered eating were gone. So I was bulimic for 20 years. And then for the 10 years after that, I had just terrible disordered eating. I mean, 20 cupcakes in 36 hours. I was a carbohydrate addict. I was a binge eater. I would go to Sam's and buy those huge giant bags of like the chocolate drizzle popcorn, and I would put 2 in the cart and I'd eat one while I was shopping. It's your typical binge eater, personality traits that I exhibited. And I would eat it while I was there, and I would eat a bunch of it on the way home. And then I would hide that bag when I got home and bring in the full bag, and I would share it with everybody. And then later I'd bring up the other bag when nobody knew that this was a bag that mom ate, 3/4 out on the way home. It's a family size bag. It should last a week. And I myself ate, 3/4 of it while I was shopping and on the way home. And I did things like that all the time. So that binge eating disorder continued even when the purging stopped. So I was just miserable. I was miserable. It was controlling me. But even before that, for basically my whole adult life, I bought my first diet pills when I was 12. My sister was anorexic and bulimic. My mom is an alcoholic. My dad's a drug addict. So I was probably going to have some sort of, an OCD thing and then some sort of addiction, at some point. I mean, granted, you can escape that, and I have now, but I dealt with it for years because of it. And I think that emotionally and mentally, the carnivore diet just started to change me. And like I said, it was about a year in when I realized I was better. It was like I didn't even notice it at first because I was so busy trying to heal. And I gained 18 pounds in the first 8 or 9 months by not eating enough and fasting too much. And there was just so much going on that I was so busy learning how to do this and absorbing all of the information that I could find from everybody, listening to podcasts and watching videos. I was completely absorbed for almost a year, joining groups, on Facebook and meeting people on Instagram and trying to learn about this, that I didn't realize what was happening. And then I saw somebody posted some information about the difference between being an abstainer and being a moderator. And binge eating, for sure. Anybody who is a binge eater or has an eating disorder or disordered eating definitely should abstain from things. So an abstainer doesn't eat any of those things because you just can't control yourself. You have to abstain from them. And a moderator can have one Oreo. And I was never able to have an Oreo. When I would buy something like that for my kids, I knew that I needed 2 packs because one of them was mine. And I never said it out loud. But doing this changed me. I can't even imagine, I couldn't have imagined before the peace that I would feel now with this way of eating and the lifestyle that I'm living and sharing it with people. I never could have imagined. And if somebody had told me, it's been 16 months for me, if somebody had told me 16 months ago that I would be where I am today, that I would be better, that I wouldn't be obsessed with food and what I was going to eat and how many calories were in it and how many points it was, if it was Weight Watchers, or whether or not I was going to juice fast this week or do the cabbage soup diet, or I have literally done everything you can think of in the last 35 years. And if somebody had told me that 16 months ago, even if somebody had told me a year ago that I would be better,
Carry on. That's fine.
If somebody had told me that a year ago that I would be better, I would not have believed them. It makes that much of a difference. The being here and the doing this and being in it and being in the community and being in the carnivore space and talking to people. And it fixed me up here, which is something that I didn't expect. I mean, I wanted it to fix the neurological effect of the parosmia, but I didn't know that it was going to fix me mentally and make me better. And so I feel like it's really important to share that message for people who, some people say this is just another way of restricting, or this is just another fad diet, or it's just another way, a different eating disorder for me, or a different way of disordered eating. And if I am at peace, and I haven't been at peace within myself for 35 years, then I can honestly say that this is not another eating disorder or disordered eating. This is not, another fad diet. This is a way of life. And you get what I've heard people call that carnivore zen. At some point you wake up one day and you're just cruising along, and you don't have the emotional ups and downs. You don't have, for women, you don't have the PMS or the ovulation pain or the emotions that go along with all of those things, autoimmune disorders, arthritis, muscle aches and muscle pains, joint pain, all of those things disappear. IBS, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome. And I know people that are dealing with Crohn's disease and other autoimmune diseases, and they're dealing with it on a daily basis. And I'm over here just cruising along. You start to get almost like survivor's guilt. You know what I mean? I feel so good and I want to tell everybody. And then you tell people and they just, oh, that's interesting, and then they just kind of go on their way. And then you see them surgeries and hospitals and going to the doctors and taking all these medications. And you just want to shout it from the rooftops. I want to stop people at the grocery store and say, what are you doing? Get that stuff out of your cart. Don't buy that stuff anymore. I just think it gets to a point with being a carnivore where you want to share it because you want to help people. And so that's why I'm here. I want to share my story about if I can do it after being bulimic for 20 years and having disordered eating my whole adult life, since I was 12, which was about 35, 36 years ago, then other people can do it too. And I think the eating disorder part of it and that part being healed doesn't get talked about enough. And I think the part about gaining weight in the beginning and that it's possible to gain weight by not eating enough is also something that doesn't get talked about. And I almost quit so many times. I mean, I had people in Facebook groups telling me I must be cheating and eating carbs and not telling anybody. And I wasn't. I was doing exactly what I had been told to do: eat when hungry until full. But my hunger cues were messed up. So those things are important to talk about too. I think my hunger cues were messed up. I was eating, like 1 meal a day, because that's what you're supposed to do. That's good for you. So I was eating 1 meal a day, but it was only like 800 or 900 calories. I couldn't fit that much food in because of years of chronic undereating. And so I try to talk about these things a lot and tell people these things. But even more than that, I think people should know what an amazing life you can have when you take the food equation out of it and you just know what you're eating. And you still have cravings for things. For 2 days, I could, like yesterday, I had ribs for lunch after church, and it was all I could do to get the ribs down because I wanted nothing but chicken wings. It was all I could think about was buffalo wings. And so I had that today. But, so you still have the cravings, and you can eat all those wonderful, delicious, fatty, juicy foods that you've been told that you shouldn't eat. And then you can feel like this. And you can, want to shout it from the rooftops and make other people feel better. And so I think we all need to get out there and just talk about it more and talk about the ways that it healed us and fixed us. And I am a new person, from 16 months ago, just because I eat meat. Incredible story.
First thing I wanted to pick up on there, Serena, was have you had... It seemed that you were saying that you had people telling you that eating a carnivorous diet is a form of disordered eating or an eating disorder of some kind.
Yes, I think some people believe that, especially for somebody like me who comes from years of, dieting and stuff like that and doing all of those, the juice fasts and the cleanses, I did everything. So everybody's used to hearing me talk about these things. So people just kind of blow it off like, oh, this is just another phase she's going through.
Right. I see.
But it's not, I'm never going back.
Yeah. Good. No, it stuns me that people in general, and you also mentioned it with people on Facebook groups there as well, having opinions on things and being quite happy to keyboard warrior and sit there bravely in their mama's basement and type things into their keyboards to people. Opinions, everyone's got one. You've probably heard the analogy I use on some of my other videos about that. It's incredible how people are pretty willing to come forward with those kind of opinions in these kind of groups and text, and people, talking to people they've never even met about, things that they know clearly nothing about. Because anyone that would suggest for a second that eating a species-appropriate, species-specific diet is in any way a form of disorder of any kind is completely off the planet. I mean,
and the other thing I find interesting is that when somebody is a vegetarian or a vegan, that's a lifestyle. Like so when somebody's a vegan, people talk about that. I mean, not our people, but other people talk about it like they respect that somebody is whole food, plant-based. Like that's the lifestyle they have chosen. But then carnivore gets labeled as a fad diet or that it's very restrictive or, whatever, when really it's the opposite. It's food freedom. I've been released from the shackles and chains that I had on for all those years where I was so worried about what I was going to eat. Now I don't worry about it at all. I know what I'm going to eat. And if you look at the list of animal foods that you can eat, it's a huge list. There is no way to get bored with that. There is no way somebody should ever call that restrictive. It's actually the opposite of that. It's total freedom. I mean, I feel free for the first time in my adult life.
Yeah. I mean, what you're basically talking about there is the complete amelioration of a bunch of pretty serious, what are ostensibly medical conditions that you suffered throughout your life there. And really the only thing you've done to achieve that outcome is to eat the way you're designed to eat, according to your genes, according to your organ systems, according to your metabolic pathways, according to your genetic gift of probably something around about 4.5 million years of human beings doing this. And it's no surprise that it works. And it's no surprise that we have story after story after story of people who say, yes, I'm another one, it worked for me as well. There are one or two people running around doing it wrong. Of course, you never really were carnivores who are having some problems. And those people are trying to solve those problems in perhaps the best way they know how. They're misguided, a lot of them, unfortunately. So stick around here, really, where the real information is at, where the real good stuff is. The other place you can stick around is a YouTube channel that's run by Serena and her good friend Jess, who I interviewed a couple of weeks ago. Tell us a little bit about that and tell us what's coming up there, because it's going to be a bit of a hoot, I think.
Yeah, it is. So when this started for me, I never imagined that I would be, sitting here talking to Bart K in my basement. But it's pretty exciting. And so Jessalyn Randall, she's on Instagram, and we met on Instagram and became very, very close very quickly, and did a phone call, like a video call, where we talked about, hey, let's do something together. And we decided on a cooking channel, and we're kind of a good combination. She's almost 20 years younger than I am, and isn't as experienced in the kitchen as I am. And so we make these recipes, but we're a little bit goofy because one of us always is missing something in the recipe, and we just kind of work it out and make it work for us. But our channel is called the Carnivore Revolution, and we also have an Instagram page by the same name. And so you can come to our YouTube channel and you can find different recipes that we do. Like, we've done carnivore biscuits and gravy, which if you have never made that, it is amazing. Then we've done carnivore macaroni and cheese, and we did Dr. Lisa Wiedemann's recipe of carnivore gnocchi. And then we do like fried chicken tenders and things like that. So, and the other thing we do is we bring guests on, and that's where you come in. Next week, I think it is, we are going to do a video with Bart, and we're super excited about that because Bart, from what I understand, is not the best cook.
I'm almost disallowed from entering the kitchen for any other purpose than to stack the dishwasher or empty it. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to do burgers.
Mm-hmm. We're going to make is it the Flying Dutchman, where you put the burger and the cheese and the bacon and the egg on top?
Yep.
So that should be super fun to watch Bart try to find his way around the kitchen.
Oh my God, seriously. You won't believe how inept I am in the kitchen until you see it. Pim would normally be there to heckle and laugh and point fingers and say this is as funny as, but she's got another appointment at that time, so she won't be able to. We'll have to imagine her doing that, and I think everyone will be able to paint that picture in their own minds, because they've probably all seen the live streams and see how she does things. But yeah, we're going to have a go at doing that. That'll be interesting. So hopefully I don't burn the house down or whatever. If I do burn the house down, it'll be good viewing on it. It'll be live on, whatever.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be an education for everybody. So that's good. All right. That'll be fun. Where else do we go from there? What else do we need to talk about? I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. I think that we should be getting the word out as much as we can about being a carnivore. And I think one of the ways to do that is to talk about the foods that we love, like the things that keep you carnivore. Like, what's your favorite? What's your favorite thing to eat?
I really have taken quite a serious shine to barbecued picanha. Which is just awesome. The other thing that we have had a bit of lately is similarly barbecued pork roasts. And when I say barbecued, it's obviously what with Pim's influence, it's proper barbecued, proper Swedish style. It's not a gas barbecue. It's like an actual fire. So the meat gets properly smoked and you get that flavor and whatever else. So we sear on the barbecue, and then we take it off the barbecue and it gets carved up, and Pim has it pretty much like that, almost raw, and I have mine cooked a little bit more because that's my preference. Yeah. And everybody's happy. Every child wins a prize pretty much. So they're a couple of real faves. I've taken recently to topping a lot of the meats with a kind of tzatziki style thing, but without most of the plant-based toxin and junk in it. Yeah. So ostensibly what it is it's yogurt with a very small amount of like grated up garlic, sort of to give it just that bit of a, without overdoing it on the garlic and all that kind of thing. Obviously it's like it's just enough. Yeah. And that's it. It's just unsweetened Greek style yogurt, a very small amount of garlic. So if you need me to hand my card in and say I never was a carnivore and I did it wrong, that's fine with me, whatever.
Well, a lot of people eat spices. I don't think spices are a big deal. I think as long as they don't affect you negatively, what's the big deal?
Well, this is it, and the other thing I've been known to do, get this, I know, this is a crime of the century, but I've been known to eat the odd plate of blueberries with heavy cream. I know.
No.
I know.
That's it. You're out of here.
I know. That's it. I have to hand in my card. I have to admit that I never was a carnivore and all of that.
Yeah.
Or
what about ice cream? Do you ever make carnivore ice cream?
Pim used to when she could be bothered, but nowadays she's kind of a bit more focused on building her own brand independent from mine, and I think that's a good move, frankly.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be independent from my brand? I want to be independent from it. I can't get away from me, though. I'm kind of stuck with that guy. He just can't behave himself online. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've heard.
And his mates, too. Have you? This guy.
I have. Oh, yeah.
He can't behave either. He's also very
trouble.
highly advanced on his camouflage training.
I was just going to say, you guys matched today.
That's it. Yep. The camouflage training is going well for Ted. Yep. But he can't behave either. But anyway, those are kind of the things that that we get into. It's mostly beef, to be fair.
Yeah.
In terms of the intakes, it's probably 80% beef and associated fat, and by that I mean muscle meat.
Yes.
I don't eat organs to speak of.
Yeah.
I've been known to eat heart. It's almost identical to skeletal muscle anyway, I find. I have tried tongue, which was really interesting. It really reminded me very, very much of corned beef.
I think I've heard that before.
Which made me wonder whether or not when we get served corned beef in a can, that it actually is tongue.
Could be.
Maybe.
I don't think they have to tell you that.
Well, no. So, I mean, if it comes from a cow, it's beef.
That's right.
Anyway, so that's what that was, I think. I think that was corned beef. The only thing that was kind of for me a bit was that the tongue still had the skin on it, and it still had all that. And I was like, oh, no. Pim, what are you putting in front of me? I said.
I am a very traditional meat kind of person. Like, I don't get into trying all of the different kinds of meat. You know, I don't really like deer. I had bear once in Alaska. I don't like to do that. I like to eat chicken and pork and cow, you know, like I just am a traditional. And I wonder if this is where it came from. I went to a friend's house. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and I went to a friend's house, and her mom, I remember sitting at the dinner table, and her mom brought out a tongue still in the shape of tongue on the table and cut me a slice, and you could still see the taste buds and stuff. I wonder if that's what did this to me, because I still to this day I really don't do well with non-traditional American meats. It's just, it's a little bit hard for me. So I just, and I'm still at the point, like, I mean, I am full-fledged, I'm a very strict carnivore. The only thing that I eat that wouldn't be considered carnivore is I do put a little bit of hot sauce on my chicken wings. But it's a totally clean hot sauce. It's like once a week. It's my absolute favorite, I think, because for so many years I didn't eat that because it was bad for me because it was full of fat.
Yeah.
So for so many years, I didn't let myself have buffalo wings, even though it was my favorite. So anyway, so that's like the biggest thing that I do that, you know, that I probably shouldn't do, but I'm a pretty strict carnivore, but I only eat like the traditional, like I stay between the lines, like, but I still can't think about how it happens or how it gets to my plate or what kind of animal it is while I'm eating it. I'm just not there yet, but I do love my meat. I love a bacon cheeseburger every day. I love ribeye with butter. The things that we can eat are so much better than the things that other people eat. I mean, seriously, I look at other people's plates and I think, come on, where is your steak? Where is your, you know, like, I love how it feels to fill up on a ribeye with butter. I love how that feels. I love how it makes me feel inside. I love how it makes me look outside. I mean, I am different because of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so 80% pork is what we eat, and then the other 15% all put together is pork and lamb and fish and seafood.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So really the basis absolutely is beef.
Yeah.
And quite a bit of the beef that we eat in this house actually was born here on this property, reared here, ate the grass over the fence about 5 meters from where I'm sitting right now, 5 yards if you like.
Amazing.
So that's good. There's no air miles on that. And that guy's skin is on the floor in the main house of the farm as well. So, you know, nothing goes to waste pretty much. But none of this nose to tail eating thing for me. It's, as I say, with the organs, no thanks, frankly.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
No liver at all for me. Absolutely no liver. brains and spinal cords and all that kind of stuff. No, thank you. Tongue was about as far as I could possibly go, and I really sort of battled with that until I could go, okay, just ignore it, don't look at it, just eat it. Okay, fine. It tastes like corned beef. I wonder if that's what corned beef is, that kind of thing. Tripe, no, forget it. No, thank you. That kind of stuff.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So, and people say, well, isn't that restrictive? And I'm like, well, no, not at all. The thing is, if a person's sole source of enjoyment in life comes from what they put in their mouth, I would suggest that person probably needs to look at their life, really.
Well, and isn't that restrictive? If all of your enjoyment comes from a party where you eat or going out to dinner where you eat, I mean, that's actually restrictive, in my opinion. And restrictive was counting everything I ate, trying a different diet every week, always being consumed with my food. That was restrictive. The eating disorder and the disordered eating that I had that was almost debilitating at times over what I was going to put in my mouth, which I'm actually in control of, but it was controlling me. So that was restrictive for me. This is not restrictive at all.
Absolutely. And I would absolutely mirror those comments as well. I mean, I went through the 90-day challenge with the Steak and Butter Gang at the beginning of this year. I did the priming and fasting and all of it over that 90-day period as per the instruction of Coach Raymond. And I've been able to free myself from an addiction, really, to alcohol.
Wow.
Among, the things that generally find their way in when alcohol is being consumed, like crisps and, that kind of nonsense that, I'm having a drink, so therefore I'm going to have this too.
Amazing.
And, the restriction thing, again, to bring that one home a bit as well, is that the thing with these foods that are so-called foods that are nice to eat or whatever, that we get this enjoyment from. Number one, if that's your only source of enjoyment, for goodness sake, have a look at your life. Number two, you need to realize that the second you've finished chewing that thing up and you've swallowed it, it's done. That enjoyment is now finished.
Yep.
The damage that it does is not done, not by a long shot. But literally, you get several seconds of pleasure from putting this thing in your mouth, chewing it up and swallowing it, and then that's done with. That's all you get from that.
That's right.
There's no knock-on pleasure. That, in fact, if anything, you pay the price.
Yeah.
It just does not make any sense at all. And to say, I couldn't live my life that way, well, again, have a think about your life if that's the case. Seriously.
Yeah, and give it a try. I mean, all these people that have tried so many other things, like me, like the place that I was in, I had literally done everything I felt like I could do to feel better and get myself under control. So what's it going to hurt you to try? Like if you try it for 30 or 60 days, you're certainly not, 30 or 60 days is not going to make enough of a difference for you to be, if you're so worried about it, for you to be so sick that you can't come back from it. But certainly the very least, everybody in the world should do. Everybody who's in control of what they eat should be very low carb. If you wanted to keep blueberries or, if you wanted to keep some low carb vegetables in as a transition, it certainly couldn't hurt to be very ketogenic, clean ketogenic, not, the artificial fat bombs and things like that. Keto gets a bad rap for those kinds of things that are low carb and keto. Stick with natural, whole, clean foods and do a very low carb version of a ketogenic diet with high fat. It's certainly not going to hurt you to do it for 30 or 60 days, but what might happen is it might free you and it might fix you and it might heal you.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. Serena, it's been an absolute pleasure to chew the fat with you, as it were, for the last half hour or so. Your story is an incredible story, and we are so glad that you have basically come back from the precipice, the edge of the cliff, the precipice, that thing. Can't even speak today. Yeah. Yes, we are glad you're still with us. We are glad that you are able to share your story and to help others. And I'm looking very much forward to your help in not burning down the kitchen next week.
We won't let you burn it down. We won't let you burn it down, I promise.
Yeah, you're responsible. Pim said so. She said, if I'm going to let you in the kitchen, those ladies are responsible for your every action. And all of this is very much
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your valuable time today. It's great that we can introduce you to my people just a bit before next week when they're going to see this other video and go like, wow, what's this?
That's right. What's the world?
All right. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And we'll probably have you on the channel again in future if you're amenable to do possibly even live questions and answers from the floor. Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Those sessions are always fun too.
That'd be great.
All right. See you then.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.